It's Mike with It's Pittsfield Tonight. It is Monday, June 1st, and I'm going to jump right into it. So last weekend of May, that was a cold one. Rainy, dreary, cold. Hopefully the last weekend of this season that people have to turn their heat on. I know I'm really waiting for the hot, warm weather to come in and stay, and I'm sure many of you are, because we know what comes after that, and it's hard to believe we're already at the halfway point of the year. So I want to touch on a few things. We're going to talk about the last budget hearing that just took place. I also put a video up with our Berkshire County District Attorney. I know quite a few of you saw that. It's part one of a two-part series. A lot of good information on there. It's one or two videos down if you're watching this on Facebook. Same on TikTok and same on Instagram and YouTube. It's on all of those from 1 or 2 days ago. I also put a video up of North Street, which I do often because, again, that's the center of the city. When a tourist or a visitor comes to Pittsfield, North Street is often the very first strip they see, and that's a reflection of our entire community. And that layout on North Street is one that I will never understand what is happening, why it is the way it is. So those of you, and I know a lot of you saw that video, I posted the video of traffic. You had 3 or 4 cars traveling in the designated bike lane with their directionals on, taking a right turn onto Linden. Then there were vehicles in the left lane, which is designated the motor vehicle travel lane, also taking a right turn onto Linden. Very confusing. And I've seen an accident with that happening, not on that one, but because you have everyone taking a left, and now the car in the left lane is trying to see if there's room to squeeze over where there's cars from the bike lane, I guess, which a lot of them don't know it's a bike lane because there's sections of the road that are not marked or the paint is wore off. And then if you have someone on a bicycle coming through there, what are they supposed to do? How is that even remotely safe for them? That layout and design does not make sense, and that happens all day, every day. And the other thing was, it was sad to see how little traffic was on North Street for the weekend. Almost none. I took videos where I was able to go up and down a few times with basically no traffic at all on there. I don't know. I don't know what that's all about. I'd like a lot of people, I want to see North Street succeed because, again, that's a reflection of our entire community. It's often the first place that anybody coming into Pittsfield sees. And how many of you have went into a community or a city or a town and, you go down their downtown strip and you either go, oh, this place looks super nice, or you go, oh my God, get me out of here. So, it is that important. And I think every community knows that. Their downtown is going to be everything. That's the heart of everything, and it's a reflection of what is happening everywhere else. It gives you a pretty good idea of what you're looking at and what type of community that is. So that being said, the last budget hearing that took place, quite a few things were discussed. Wasn't some of the big ones. I was hoping that the DEI issue was going to come back and hear some in-depth conversation about that. Because that one from that previous budget hearing got very confusing. I didn't know what was going on, and it looked like there were, to be kind, some untruths being spoke. And it was also shocking to find out that the DEI budget is $207,000 or something like that, and it's slowly catching up to what the entire human resources department budget is. That's only $270, I believe. So that's concerning, and what is it doing? And that's where it got, at that meeting, it got a little confusing because nothing was really explained. Nothing was explained that made sense to a lot of people. So, but let's go to this last budget hearing. Before I throw that out there, many of you know your water and sewer rates are going up again. I know a lot of you saw that. So that did pass, and you're going to see I believe a 7% increase on your sewer, 6.4% on your water. Could be the other way around, but 7% and almost 6.5%. And as upset as people are on that, I don't think, I've been saying this year after year, you're going to see those increases every single year. Every single year, you're going to see increases on your water and sewer rates. Maybe switching everyone in the city to meters might be the way to go. That I know after COVID with some of the ARPA funds, we did receive 261, I believe, water meters that were given to people who qualify, low income, I think, primarily. I do believe there's still some left. Just the water and sewer is killing people on top of the taxes and everything else. Water and sewer bills I hear a lot about, just taxes in general, and people concerned with what they're seeing in the community. They want to see growth, and that scares them, because if you're not seeing growth in the business sector, in all the commercial sector, then who's going to foot the bill for things? So anyway, that's something we're going to talk about in depth after everything is finalized and everything passes. So at this last budget hearing, one of the things, and then I'm going to close this on this, because again, there wasn't a ton talked about. One of the things I did agree with was a travel stipend for educational seminars and things like that for our city councilors, to get valuable information that not just helps them with their job, but it helps bring more knowledge to their constituents. And it wasn't a lot. That I agreed with keeping. I think it was Councilor Kathy Amuso that wanted to eliminate that. And I get every counselor, or a lot of them, or a few of them, some of them, are looking at ways to cut the budget. So, but I do support that. I think education is power, and the more our elected officials, the more information they have access to, the better. But there was a few things. Okay, so the city clerk spoke, and I'm not making this up, because we're talking about pay raises for some people in the city clerk's office. And the city clerk spoke and was talking about her responsibilities, okay? And I'm not saying the city clerk doesn't work hard or whatever, but again, these are jobs that people campaign for. They beg for these jobs. But the city clerk said, God forbid something happens to the mayor. And then, God forbid, something happens to the council president. And then, God forbid, something happens to the council vice president. Then I have to step forward and run the city, and I don't want to do that, or something like that. And it was like, what are you talking about? We're in this era, I hate to say it, but sometimes it is really annoying, especially with any elected officials that want to tell you, you don't know how hard this is. Like Cam Cunningham, the new Ward 2 counselor. I like Cam. He's a nice guy. I have a decent relationship with him as far as I know. But he talked about we're not paying the counselors enough, and it's not going to attract new people. And, I get it. City councilors make $8,000 a year. These jobs were never meant to be about money. Okay? It's the people who run for these jobs, they beg for them like you would no other job. Please, 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 I'm the best. I'm going to do all this. Can I put a sign in your yard? Can I do all these things? Can you imagine going to apply for a job somewhere? And I used this analogy years ago, but going to apply for a job somewhere, say Stop and Shop, right? And then after you leave Stop and Shop, you walk around the area around Stop and Shop, the people who live there and other businesses, and ask them, hey, I'm trying to get a job at Stop and Shop. You mind if I put this sign in your window or in your yard that says Mike for Stop and Shop? I mean, it's the one job you're begging for. You're knocking on people's doors and asking them, vote for me. You're mailing them stuff. You're putting signs out and bumper stickers, and come on. It's one of those jobs. You do it because you love to do it. The $8,000 a year that a city councilor gets is to cover some expenses. I have friends that golf. They love golfing. To me, what they do would be a ton of work. They drive all over the place. They go get up early. They spend tons of money on clubs and balls and all this stuff, but they love doing it. Running for local offices is very similar to that, especially from the legislative point of view. A city councilor or a city clerk. Now, a city clerk, I would absolutely say, works much harder than a city councilor. And I'm not saying city councilors don't work hard, but again, these are positions you beg for. You beg for them. Don't complain that it's not enough money or we're not going to attract the right people. The people that run for those positions are people that want to give back to the community. It's like a civic duty, a civic responsibility, and they have a passion for it. They love doing it. I complain every now and then, because I wish I could do more doing this. But of course I love doing it. That's why I do it. I enjoy doing this. But yes, I have to do fundraisers once or twice a year, depending on what's going on. And it helps be able to cover more and do more and drive here and go there and film this. But I do it because I love doing it. I don't even want to tell you, because it'll give me a headache at how much I spend doing this. I mean, cameras and mics and equipment and computer, I can't even tell you how much all that stuff costs. So, but I do it because I want to do it. I want to give back. I want to be part of the community. And that's what, like, being a city councilor is. I don't want to hear we need more money. That makes me mad. That makes me mad when I hear that. Because those jobs, if you look at the history of Pittsfield specifically, most of the mayors we had in the beginning did it for $1 a year. These were highly successful business owners that became mayor for a year or 2 years, and they did it to give back to the community that they got so much from running their businesses. It was a way to give back. And that's what this should be. Attracting the most qualified. What does that mean when you're looking at it from that perspective? The most qualified are going to be people who are successful in the private sector and they want to give back. And successful doesn't always mean from a monetary point of view, but they want to give back. And that's why they do it, to represent their neighbors and their friends and their family and make the community a better place. Not about how big my paycheck is. And when I hear counselors talk about, they calculate about how much they figure they make an hour because they have all these meetings to go to. You didn't do your research? You did research on all this other stuff. You didn't do research on what the job entailed. You didn't know that if you put yourself out there publicly, there was also going to be scrutiny attached to that not everybody is going to embrace everything you're doing. That's part of the deal. That's part of doing it. That's the excitement of doing it. It's not easy. It's not any of that. That's part of doing it. So it makes me frustrated, like when Michelle Benjamin, the city clerk, said, God forbid the mayor and the city council president, the vice president, something happens to them, then I'm fourth in line. It was like, really? Well, God forbid I'm driving through Pittsfield and a meteor hits and everyone's gone. I'm the last person left in Pittsfield. Then I got to run everything. And that weighs heavy on me, the responsibility of knowing that. I mean, come on. These are people, if you don't want the job, don't campaign for it. If you think it's too hard and you're underpaid, then move back into the private sector. Elected positions like this shouldn't be career positions to start with. They shouldn't be. unless you want to be there and the public keeps voting you in. Otherwise, they were never intended to be that. They were never intended to be a career and your income to build your whole life off of. That's not what they were intended for. So, I hate hearing all that stuff because, again, we're in that era now where a lot of elected officials, you don't know how hard it is. It's like the 80s rock videos of how hard it was to be a rock star. It's like, come on, you begged for this. You begged for these jobs. You panhandled holding signs and the whole deal. Don't talk about how hard it is. If you didn't want it, don't do it. That's how I feel about it. The $8,000 a year a city councilor gets is really just, it's to help cover some their expenses of doing it. That's what that's about. Was never meant to be, I'm not being paid fairly. You know how many people volunteer for stuff? And being a city councilor, a lot of it you have to look at as I'm volunteering. I'm giving back to my community. Same with being the city clerk. That's an elected position. You campaign on it. You put signs out. You run for it. It's elected. And that's it. I had to touch on that. And I know that might make some of the elected officials upset, but I figured, I got to be honest. And that's how I feel about that. I really do. I can't feel sorry for somebody who begged for a job and then says it's hard. Well, yeah, of course it is. But anyway, and speaking of that, I wonder myself what will happen come the next election with mayor. I'm wondering about that. I've asked our current mayor, are you running again? And he's always tells me yes. I don't know. I get that vibe sometimes. And even though like when Linda Tyre was insisting she was going to run for a third term, I kept saying there's no way. And she kept going on other media outlets saying that she's absolutely running for a third term. My gut was just telling, and I could have very well been wrong, but my gut feeling was saying there's no way. There is no way. Well, I wonder if I could see maybe the city council president, Earl Persip, making a run for mayor. Maybe another city councilor out there making a run for mayor. It'll be interesting to see what happens. And I wonder, will our current mayor run for another term? He says yes. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. All right, that's it for now. There's a ton of stuff coming up. The pizza thing. I will eventually get up with Chief Madalena and see if I can get an interview with him, talking about downtown and a few other things. Part 2 is going to be coming out in the next day or two. With the Berkshire County District Attorney and a few other things. So that's it for now. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and I'll catch you all in the next day or two.